Okay, so back in high school, I used to be kind of like your scatterbrain, very disorganized guy. And I'm sure you could see in some of my other videos there in my room is like a mess, right? And while my room hasn't changed, my organizational system has. But back in high school, as I was saying, did not use a to-do list, didn't use a calendar, didn't use any schedules. I was just kind of going off of vibes. And while that was perfectly fine in high school, once I hit first year uni, things kind of started to break down, right? Because you have so many different assignments from different courses, labs, tutorials, all that different things, right? Then you have to manage all your academic stuff with your social stuff because you might be going out, you might be, getting into new hobbies, getting into new sports and whatnot. And then you have to manage like your family stuff, like perhaps you need to go home and blah, 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 right? That all culminated into when I was doing my exams, where the first exam I had, and remember, I was like a very high achieving guy, and back in high school, first exam, I come back, I get a 51%. I'm like, what's going on? I studied for the exam, but it was a combination of me not organizing my time and not being able to know the different things that I needed to kind of review for the exam. Now, was that the teacher's fault or my fault? Obviously, that rhetorical question. That was clearly my fault, but something had to change. And thus, I can speak. It did, right? So I read a book called How to Become a Straight A Student from Cal Newport, and he makes a lot of great books. But the point I'm trying to focus on for this video isn't necessarily the studying aspect or how to get the straight A grades. It's more about the organizational framework that he kind of explained in that video that really has stuck with me. And remember, first year was like 5 years ago for me or something like that. And I still use this framework to this day, right? And after I started using the framework, literally, like, I wouldn't say it was day and night, but like it was the fact that like that next semester, my next year in medical school, it was so much easier to stay on top of my work, stay on top of the different things that I wanted to do. Now, yes, there were times where I kind of fell through. I didn't really follow it, but I felt during those times that I was so much disorganized and I was so much more stressed because there was just so many things going on in my mind, right? So I'm going to explain kind of the system. I'll probably put like a timestamp so you can skip to this part, but I'm going to explain how the system works, why it works, and some complaints that you might have for why should I do this instead of doing something else, right? So the organizational system to kind of like manage the different things that kind of go on with your day and schedule your day works in 3 different tiers, I like to say. You first have your calendar, which is your overarching everything that you want to do for the rest of your life, or as far as you can go, right? Your calendar is number 1. Number 2 is your daily schedule. Now, this is what you're going to do today, right? So if it does not matter if tomorrow you have to attend a wedding, your daily schedule is what you got to do today, right? Today. So that's everything from when you wake up, if it's at 5 a.m. to when you go to sleep, if it's at 8 p.m., right? And then the last thing is having a list called your things to remember. Now, this is for anything that you kind of remember throughout the day. So let's go through the 3 and we'll talk a little bit about them, right? So the calendar is as calendar is. It's just meant to remind you what you need to do on a certain day, right? So you don't need to put like in like every little detail, but it's just like, okay, 5 weeks from now, I need to go for an eye appointment, right? That's what the calendar is there for. You don't use your calendar as your daily schedule. And that is something that I never really kind of understood. And when I understood that, it was like, okay, because your calendar isn't meant to be your daily schedule. Your daily schedule is meant to be that, right? This might sound a bit complicated, but as I explain it, it will make more sense, right? So your calendar has basically everything that you want to do, right? But it's not necessarily refined. It's not like by like the exact timing, right? Like a lot of calendar systems have like featured to kind of time it when you want to, like you give like a block of time. But I find that using it on the calendar, like it's not that it doesn't have enough control or it's just not good enough, but I find that when I write out like a daily schedule, it makes me remember the things I actually need to do rather than just kind of looking at it visually, right? So that's your calendar, right? You have everything that you want to do. It's pretty simple. A lot of people understand that. Now, the daily schedule Now, daily schedule, how this works is now this can be either on your phone, pen and paper, like I have. This is not my daily schedule, but this is like kind of like a habit tracker. So you can use like paper and just like a pen. Very simple. You don't need to have something complex. You don't need to go out and buy like a crazy notebook, a bullet journal, any of that jazz, right? So for your daily schedule, what you do every single morning when you wake up, the first thing that you do, or you can do it the night before, the first thing that you do is you look at your calendar, you look at all the events, and what you do is you basically block out times, right? So if you say you need to go to the gym, you need to do a workout, you need to, I'm struggling to think of examples. You need to go to get some food, you might need to study, you might have an event to go to. What you do is you just plan it out. So you say, okay, for sake of example, right, I'll just write on this piece of paper. I say tomorrow, I'm going to go to the gym, right? So from 9 a.m. to, let's say, 11:30 a.m., right? I'm going to say, go to the gym, right? So if I can just show you guys, it would look something like that, right? And then you would kind of scribble down everything else that you have, right? So go to the gym, get errands, blah, 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 blah. You want to write it all down. Now, the way that you write it is you're just looking at your schedule, right? And as you look at the different things and as you write it down, physically write it down, not just like dragging it, you'll see like, oh, wait, well, I'm going to the gym, but I have to kind of get back. I might need to take a shower, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so I'll add a little bit of buffer, right? And you only kind of get those idiosyncrasies. That's a big word. I haven't used that before. When you kind of write it down and physically kind of think about, because you actually have to think about the things you do. And this is why I like it a lot more than just having your calendar, because when you just have the calendar, it kind of, you're not forced to think about every single event as it happens, right? So that's your daily schedule, right? And you can either have that on a piece of paper or you can have it on your phone. I use it on my phone, but I used to use it on a piece of paper. I used to use Notion to do it. And I had like this, almost like a 2-3 year log of these things, but anything is fine. I'll tell you about what is the best software for you a bit after, but anything right now is fine. Now, the last thing, and I think this is the most important thing, and this is what will make you as if you're in the Matrix. People will say shit and then you'll just remember. And it's nothing crazy. It's just a to-do list, but it's just called the things to remember. Now, the way that this works is literally the second you hear something that you need to remember, you drop everything. And I mean everything. I don't care if you are making out with your wife. I don't care if you're feeding the dog. You drop everything. You go to your things to remember list and you write it down, right? So you're talking to your mom. You say, blah, 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 blah. Hi, Ahmed, blah, 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 blah. I need X, right? You say, Mom, stop talking. Stop talking, Mom. I need to write this in my things to remember list. Don't do that. That might not end up too well. But you understand what I'm trying to say, right? You need to have a system where you hear something, you write it down immediately. Either that's on a piece of paper. I'm not going to do the example, or that's on your phone. You want to write it down immediately. And this is going to train your brain to have that habit to kind of document those things, because relying on your memory, especially if you're waiting until the end of the day, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to remember to do this. Terrible idea. You are going to forget 9 times out of 10. I don't care how smart you think you are going to forget. So ditch memorizing and just thinking you're going to remember it. Just write it down, right? Now, the workflow with this, when you write it down, the thing you're going to do after, at the end of the day, when you're about to go to sleep, what you do is you basically, this is what I do. I have a list in my phone of things to remember. And at the end of each day or the next day in the morning, I will basically cross out each item and move them to my calendar, right? So if I have a things to remember and I say, oh, I need to get milk, right? Obviously, if I'm going to sleep, I'm not going to get milk. So I know I'm not going to do it today. But if I need to do it tomorrow, I'll put it on my calendar for tomorrow. If I need to do it another day, right? So when I move it to my calendar, I'm not necessarily focused on the exact time I'm going to do it. I just need to focus. I'm kind of working in chunks, right? So I'll just put it for the next day, right? So either tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or whenever I have time. And when you kind of follow these three different systems, having your calendar, having everything that you want, and then you have your things to remember to see the things on a daily base, and then you have your daily schedule to see what you're doing. you'll find that when you write things to remember, you might say, and you're moving it to the next day, you'll see, oh, I have a shit ton of things to do on this day, so I'm going to move it to the next day. And then when people ask like, oh, let's hang out or something like that, you already have those plans put into your schedule. You already have those planned out. So you look at your calendar, you're like, oh, hey, I don't have time that day. You don't have to worry about double booking, because the first thing when somebody says, oh, do you have plans, is not the fact that, oh, yes, you're going to write it down. You're going to say, hey, I'll get back to you. And then, you'll do it, right? And that's essentially how it works, right? It's a bit of a long-winded explanation, but it works because you capture the things that are important right at that time. You don't wait, right? You don't wait at all. And because of that, you're always reviewing your things to remember. You're reviewing your calendar. You review everything in that day, and you review all of those different things, right? So by doing that, you're able to kind of stay on track. So that was a lot of talking, but you might be wondering, as I wrote some objections, oh, don't I need a fancy app, or don't I need a to-do system? And I'll break that belief immediately for you, because the more difficult, the more fancy, the more value you put on your piece of paper that you do, the harder it is to initiate that movement when things get tough. Now, I'll give you a perfect example, right? I started using this kind of thing for like habit tracking, and it's been working really well. But I don't have a lot of value on this piece of paper, right? I genuinely don't. I'm going to rip this paper right now. Like, I don't give a shit, right? Cool. Like, cool, I'll make a new one, right? But if you pay like a fancy app, like something like Todoist or something like that, right? You pay a fancy app and you do all this jazz, and then like something very minuscule happens to you, right? Like, you're going to like break down, and you're going to feel scared. You want to do it so perfectly. The fact that I just ripped that up, I can make that in like 5 seconds. And it's easy for me to make. It's easy for me to follow. It might not look the best. It might not look the coolest, but I can do it every single day. And that's what matters, right? So you don't need the fancy apps. You don't need all of that, right? And essentially, that's the main thing, right? You don't need the fancy apps. You don't need all of those different things. You can just literally have a piece of paper, pen and paper, write those things down. And so long as you follow it, that is the most important thing. It's the same thing with working out, right? The best workout is the one that you will follow. I don't give a shit if you think working out with some crazy every single little thing is just perfect. That does not matter if you do not do the workout, right? So that's the essence. Okay. So the last thing is, you might be wondering, why do you need the calendar and the to-do? Because let's say, for example, like a lot of apps or calendar apps will be able to do both. And I say that because the calendar, it's a lot of friction to make a calendar event and act as a to-do list, right? So say, for example, I have app calendars and I want to remember, let's say I have guitar lessons for next week, right? I have to make that event, I have to first open the app. I have to click add new thing. I have to say guitar lessons. I have to put the right date. I have to put the time. I have to, if I'm multiple times since I have to do that, and then you have so many options where it's like, if you just have a list that literally all you do is write guitar lesson. Done. You don't need to put the time, don't need to do that, because when you go to kind of put those things formally into your into your calendar, you'll realize that, hey, since I wrote it down, I can kind of remember it quickly. And if you think you're going to forget, you just scribble down 5 p.m., right? Because you're not going to be waiting until like a week to put this in your calendar. You're just waiting until the end of the day. And since you've actually made a mental note, like a physical note, then it's will be able to jog your memory, right? So in essence, I would say stop kind of relying on your own memory. Stop kind of relying on, I'm just going to do it. Follow a system and make sure you stick to it. And I think you'll succeed. You'll succeed. Anyways, I'll probably put like a video or some pictures in while I'm talking, so it's a bit easier for you guys to understand. But yeah, I did want to say a lot more people are finding out about my channel, so that's fun. But yeah, anyways, I will see you guys in the next one.